I believe in serendipity. Just before today's service, after my sermon was written, because I do write them ahead of time, someone handed me a quote that is a perfect text for this morning's sermon. Food for myself is a material question. Food for others is a spiritual question. Hunger. We are born hungry. The moment our umbilical cord is cut, the food supply is uncertain. We cry, desperate that our pleas are heeded, dependent upon the will of another. Hopefully our mother and our father will provide and give us each day our daily bread, our ration of the surplus, our portion of the leftovers. And as adults, we work, dependent upon others to give us money that we might buy food. Long gone are the days and ways of hunter-gatherers, where food was all around waiting to be found. We have lost the knowledge of eating wild things. The outer husk of all our food is cellophane. Agriculture is known by very few. The many depend on the expertise of farmers. Our food, therefore, is no longer piped into our bellies. It's no longer at our mother's breast. It is no longer outside our door. It is no longer out in the fields. Our food is in storage, given only to those who have the means to pay, and the others are sent away, hungry. I grew up in a grocery store, so hunger was never at our door. If the bananas did not sell, Mother took the speckled, brown, overripe softness home and made banana bread. We ate a lot of banana bread. Our parents might have worried about loss of profits, but we children celebrated that tragedy, banana bread. Stocking shelves in the family grocery, I was puzzled by food that we sold but never ate. The first time I looked through the clear glass jar at pickled pig's feet, I was shocked. I was incredulous as my father explained that people actually ate these things, actually liked these things. I was told that there were actually whole, unscaled, dead fish packed into a can of sardines, some of them in a red sauce. I never had courage to open a can and find out for myself. And there was a family who came into our store every day and bought Pabst Blue Ribbon beer and seldom brought food. Their son was a classmate of mine, always disruptive, often angry, unable to do his work. We children wondered how he moved from grade to grade, and we just decided that the teachers didn't want to have him in his class 2 years in a row. But I wonder now, was he hungry? Is that why he was such a lean, mean fighting machine? We never talked about hunger when I was growing up. It was something that was happening over in China or over in Africa, a problem that was mysteriously solved if you ate everything on your plate. My second grade Sunday school class supported a child in India for $12 a month. But we never thought that people might be hungry right here in America. hunger looks different in the USA. A cynic will ask, how come the poor in the USA are fat? And it's because often malnutrition is hidden by obesity. Cheaper hamburger has more fat in it than lean beef. Bologna is cheaper than portobello mushrooms. And fried chicken is tasty and inexpensive. Milk and juice cost more than chocolate drink, whatever that is, and soda and sugar water pseudo juices. And potato chips are cheap. And the poor, like all of us, have been influenced by our instant gratification culture. Fast food feels good if you're hungry now. It seems cheap, but its costs add up day after day, leaving less to buy food at home. And fast food is fatty food, creating an underclass of people who are undernourished yet overweight. What is the meaning behind food? They say you are what you eat. And there's a sense that this is literally true. People who eat a lot of fat often are fat. People who drink a lot of alcohol are alcoholic often. People who eat meat are carnivores. People who eat only plants are vegetarian. But there's a spiritual side to our eating. Who we are is influenced by our reasons for eating. So instead of considering we are what we eat, I want us to consider we are why we eat. Why do we eat? We eat because we are hungry. We eat for nutrients. We eat to be social. And we eat for pleasure, among other reasons. When we eat for the sake of hunger, we are in a state that we share with all humanity, indeed the entire animal kingdom. There is something primal about it. We may go for hours without eating, preoccupied until we notice our stomach rumbling, our mind turning to thoughts of food, our mouths watering with anticipation. We eat because we have in each of us an urge to survive. We feed because of need. But very seldom do we actually eat because of need. Seldom do we wait long enough between meals that true hunger is setting in. We may feel peckish. We might have a slight longing for food. But I have never been hungry enough to eat pickled pig's feet. I figure it would take about 3 days without anything before I thought, well, I like pickled cucumbers. It might not be so bad. But at some point, when primal hunger overtook, I just would not care. I would eat it because it is technically food. What will I eat today? How hungry would you have to be to eat at the soup kitchen because it is your only option? Eating because you are hungry is communing with your animal nature. And sometimes that makes we humans uncomfortable. Some of us eat for nutrition. Each day we eat between 1,800 and 2,200 calories, balancing our protein, fat, and carbohydrate intake eating green leafy vegetables, ensuring that we get the recommended daily requirement of all nutriments. This diet, in combination with good sleep, exercise, and avoidance of risky behavior, guarantees that we'll live to 120, at which time we'll probably be struck by lightning. But how many of us ate this way yesterday? How many of us can sustain this diet for a week, a month, a lifetime? If you are, congratulations, you are a rational eater, successful at mind over matter or brain over belly. To eat this way, one needs to be disciplined, to have a sense of empowerment that you are control over your life. One must have a discerning ability to decide between conflicting nutritional schemes, and one needs the financial and mental wherewithal to stick to this diet. Whereas the hungry, the truly hungry, have to eat whatever is put in front of them. To eat this way, you need to be, as Maslow would say, self-actualized, conscious to taste only that which leads to your self-improvement. But most of us are not there. And it is even more unlikely that the poor among us, who have little control over so many aspects of their lives, are able to eat this way. Another reason why we eat is to be social. Think of eating at Thanksgiving. The sharing of food does more than feed our bodies. It feeds our spirit. Our sense of belonging is connected to food. As a child, I remember eating a concoction called ganip. My mother made this, I guess it would have been a soup, from warm milk, and they had some dumplings in it, and then she would fry up some croutons of bread, and we would stick that in it. And so I don't know the origin of this dish. I don't know if it was an ethnic thing passed down in my mother's family for generations, or it was something Mom invented on a day that all we had in the house was flour, milk, and bread. And there's an emotional tie to that food that is stronger than any nutritional need. And looking back, it does not seem like it could have tasted all that well either. But I'm sure each of us have food that we associate with our family, associate with that feeling of belonging. Our fellowship here has dinner circles, not because we are hungry, not because we wish to have exercises in good nutrition. We do it for the socialization. Gail and I met in Chicago, and we were working for an organization called Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly. And their slogan was flowers before bread. And this organization started in France after World War II, visiting seniors whose lives had been disrupted by the war. They were alone, perhaps their children had died in the war. These people needed help. It was decided to deliver bread to the home of the destitute elderly. But many of these people were ashamed to receive charity. And so Little Brothers started delivering flowers with their bread and giving the flowers before they gave the bread. This token of friendship transformed the relationship. The flowers, the socialization, recognized the value of these people as persons. They were no longer charity cases, but friends. And only after their dignity was fed were they able to attend to the hunger in their bellies. We eat because of the need to socialize. A different hunger is satisfied. And another reason we eat is pleasure. Consider rice cakes versus ice cream. Broccoli versus chocolate. McDonald's versus a gourmet restaurant. There is beauty in life that needs to be savored. And this beauty is its own reward. The sensual should occasionally overrule the sensible. Why live to be 120 and never enjoy a meal? It'll seem like you're living to 240. Treat yourself well. Enjoy. The capacity to enjoy life must be nurtured. I've talked about a few of the hungers that food feeds. We hunger for survival. We hunger for health. We hunger for belonging. We hunger for joy. During this month of November, we'll have several opportunities to feed the hungry. This Sunday is a Sunday like every month, once a month. People bring food to give to the pantry at Crisis Control. It's something we do year-round. At the Thanksgiving service on November 21st, each congregation has been invited to bring one special food. Our food is macaroni and cheese. This fulfills a primal hunger. It is food that fills people's stomach. This food also will go to Crisis Control Pantry. At our Thanksgiving service on November 26th, we're also going to be collecting food for the pantry. But I invite us to feed a different hunger. Instead of bringing a staple food, bring a food that you love. Something special like a tin of those wafer-thin Moravian cookies, or maybe caviar. That would surprise somebody in their bag. Even if they only find out, gee, why do people like this stuff? At the very least, you'll be teaching someone to fish, because we call fish egg bait where I come from. Or maybe the really expensive kind of tomato sauce, instead of the $1 Harris Teeter brand, those jars of real chunky type that have all those flavors in. But think of a food that you love that won't spoil, that will be able to be given, and give food to the pantry that is not feeding just basic necessities, but feeding some joy. Also on Thanksgiving weekend, we'll be starting the UU Service Committee's Guest at Our Table boxes. And during the month of December, the money you put into boxes will help fund programs that empower people to do for themselves, to not only earn money for their own food, but also to learn how to maybe be those actualized nutritional eaters as well. But mainly helping people gain control of their own lives. On Thanksgiving Day, several of us will be gathering here at the Fellowship, and boy, we really do need a coordinator for this. We have a sign-up sheet, but boy, it would be nice if somebody was knowing how all the pieces would be putting together. But this will happen because this feeds a need for socialization. If you are coming to the church on that Thursday, maybe you could invite a friend you know that needs good company. Or if you're eating at home, is there someone you know? Someone who you know that could be one more person at your table. Lord knows you'll have enough food. Because it's the loneliness at the holiday season contributes to depression and makes it worse. Let someone know that they belong. Feed the need for belonging. Feeding the hungry is more than just charity. When we understand the reasons why we eat, we realize there is more to do than just give a donation. We get hungry with our whole selves. Likewise, the hungry in our city need more than just a crust of bread. We need to build a society where they become empowered, create a community where they feel welcome. We need to let them partake in the joy of living. I've only touched on some of the reasons for eating and some of the reasons for sharing our hunger and our fulfillment of that hunger. If those of you who would like to speak some more on this, I invite you to come forward. I've been told that sometimes when we have talk back that not everybody can hear. So if you could come to the mic and say a few words on this topic, you're welcome to do so. If you're unable to come to the mic, raise your hand and I'll repeat what you say so everyone can hear. I'm not sure I need a microphone. But model good behavior nonetheless.
I consider myself admonished. It is also probably an oxymoron for me to talk about hunger. But I just want to say a couple additional things. First, it is said that after missing 20 meals, a man will steal. After missing 40 meals, a man will kill for food. I have at home on my dresser, and I mentioned this last night at our circle dinner where we were eating sumptuously, a picture of a boy in India, 5 years old, who is dying of hunger. And at the time I clipped that picture out of a paper, he looked a lot like my son. All he had was a blanket lying on a dirt road. That's all he had. All Jesus had at his death was his clothes. There's no reason why this world has to suffer hunger for anybody. Absolutely none. The more we can do to eliminate hunger, the better off we'll be. And I wish I knew more how to do that.
My comment, back when I was a younger man, this was in the 1970s, I was considerably younger, I fasted for a week. And 7 days doesn't sound too long, but fasting for a week, drinking nothing but water, a little tea. I was working, and this was in downtown Seattle. One thing that really hit me beside the hunger after a while was the advertisements. Television, buses going by, with placards, billboards, the smells from the restaurants, which is a type of advertisement. That's why they blow it out onto the street for you, so you're sure to come in. We are surrounded by this, and maybe this has a lot to do with why perhaps we tend to indulge too much. But it must be really something to be a homeless person and be involved and engulfed in all that and see all this food opulence and not be able to partake except perhaps go down to the shelter for the macaroni and cheese. So let's embellish that macaroni and cheese the best we can for some folks, and we'll do the best we can to help their spirit as well as their bodies. And I appreciate Reverend Charlie for this talk. It's been excellent.
We used to, as a fellowship, volunteer at Samaritan Inn. We can still do that. We can apply to get on the schedule once a month. It only is a drop in the bucket. I know that there are places in town that provide Thanksgiving dinner for people who are not going to get it any other place. Before you come over here for your Thanksgiving meal, make your meal or your thing you're bringing ahead of time, you can find a place to go help make Thanksgiving dinner and still be over here at 4 o'clock. I think that would be a good idea.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but when we lived in Kenosha, Wisconsin, I worked in a homeless shelter for families with children. And one of the things that our church in Kenosha was involved in was doing soup kitchen at the shelter. And because I worked there, I got to meet the families on a different basis than the volunteers who came in once or twice a month. I mean, I really got to know the kids one-on-one. And it was really neat. I watched our children from our church behind that long counter, some of them standing on milk crates so they could be tall enough to hand out a donut, or we gave them the fruit and things like that to pass out, give them the soup or anything. But what was interesting was watching how our UU children saw these people, and they were clearly people to our kids. The kids didn't see them as homeless, poor, or whatever. They were individual people, and these kids would give these clients of our shelter the sweetest smiles, and they talked with them and bantered with them back and forth. And the people in the shelter used to come to me sometimes and say, "I love it when your church volunteers." They would tell us this, they loved it when our church came because there was a real sense of connecting on a personal level. And I'm here to tell you, nothing feels better than seeing a family get on their feet, and nothing feels better than watching your child hand someone a glass of milk with a sweet smile and just knowing that you're reaching out to them. So again, as Carol said, if you're able to volunteer anytime, please do so. And if anyone's going and you can tell me where it is, I'd be willing to do it too.
I'm really holding something that Reverend Charlie said, and that's the whole Maslow's pyramid of needs, and just holding the elitist perspective that is, that the only way one can be self-actualized is to be able to be this, there's something about, there's something to be said for all the poor people who are self-actualized and aren't eating the nutritious food. So
Put down by hierarchies again, and I think it speaks to that is that the people in France who needed to be treated like people before they could, that overrode their survival needs. And I think that's something we always need to remember, that the dignity isn't always on the top of the hierarchy after all the other needs are met. People need that met all the time. Let us now give to sustain